Republicans fail to repeal and replace Obamacare again. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Darrell Rowland, Public Affairs Editor for the Columbus Dispatch. Laura Bischoff, State House reporter for the Dayton Daily News. Derek Clay, Democratic strategist. And Bob Clegg, Republican strategist. Senate Republicans again failed to deliver on their 7-year promise to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. This week, GOP Senate leaders shelved a vote on the most recent repeal bill after it was clear they didn't have the needed 50 votes. Bob Clegg, for rank-and-file Republican voters out there, what's the takeaway about what a federal government fully controlled by the GOP can achieve?
Well, it's what it's showing is they can't come together to take care of this thing. But as we talked about it the first time when they didn't do it, it's tough to take away something that you've already given to people. And that's why Republicans, 5 years ago tried to fight it in court, because they knew then that if this ever became law, they would have a really hard time pulling it back. Now, they still are trying to pull it back, but they aren't going to be able to. What I think is interesting with this latest unsuccessful attempt is now the president's going to start going down the executive order route, which is what President Obama did for many parts of Obamacare itself, because he knew once Republicans got control, there were certain items that needed to be done that he wouldn't be able to get through. So he added many things to Obamacare through executive orders, and now it looks like President Trump's going to be doing the same thing.
He's also said, though, that he wants to work with Democrats.
Well, and I think he's number one, smart to say that, and number two, I think if the Democrats were smart, and I'm not saying, Derek, they aren't, but if they were smart, I mean, this man's going to be there for another 3.5 years. If they do nothing to Obamacare for the next 3.5 years, it's not going to exist. It's going to collapse. So the Democrats are going to have to try to sit down with him and work something out.
Just to stabilize the insurance market, if nothing else.
Yeah, but I want to remind everybody that's listening that this is the 5th time, number 5, that this healthcare attempt has been defeated. And the reason why it's been defeated is because there's nothing else that the Republicans have put in place that's even remotely better to the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act is not perfect, but it's what we have right now. And until the Republicans come up with something that's better, then it's going to continue to go down in defeat.
Is it time for bipartisanship? Do you think we've reached the entry to bipartisanship, Darrell Rowland?
Well, it seemed like we were here about maybe 3 weeks ago or so.
When he had dinner with...
Well, that with the Chuck and Nancy dinner, but more than that, more substantively than that, perhaps, is the committee that was headed by Tennessee Republican Senator Lamar Alexander. The minority leader is Patty Murray, Democrat from Washington. Right. They were headed down a bipartisan road. Sherrod Brown told me 1 week ago today that many Democrats, probably overwhelmingly, would support this. Now, don't be mistaken, this is not a full revamp like Republicans want of Obamacare, but it does make some fixes. It's designed at least to stabilize things and not have the falling off the cliff like members of both parties are assuming. So that's going to be the big question, I think, for Mitch McConnell. Number one, is he going to allow this to go forward? Because he put the kibosh on it 2 or 3 weeks ago, decided to go with Graham Cassidy. Number two, and this is the plan that all along Governor Kasich from our state, of course, has supported, or at least the approach he's supported.
The Alexander Murray.
Yeah, the bipartisan approach, right. And then sort of the temporary fix. Number two, though, is even if it gets through the Senate, what will happen in the House will even be brought up by Speaker Ryan for a vote. So, what else do they have left? When in doubt, maybe we can work with the other side, but even then there's far, far from any guarantees.
Laura, the president, Wisconsin Senator Rob Johnson's now going after Ohio's enrollment under the Medicaid expansion. Is this some kind of payback for something with the governor?
That seemed, I kind of read it that it's, political theatrics, that he wants to draw attention to the fact that 31 or 32 states expanded Medicaid under Obamacare, and just wants to. It just seemed like political theater to me.
Okay.
What I think is interesting about this failure to repeal it is that it proves that healthcare is enormously complex and important to millions of Americans. And Bob's right. Once you give a benefit out, it's really hard to take it back. And then thirdly, I think that really there's like three parties running the show in the in Congress. There's the Democrats, the mainstream moderate Republicans, and the conservative Republicans, and they just can't agree on something this hefty.
Ever?
We'll see. I think I don't know.
My prediction is when the whole healthcare system starts collapsing, you're going to probably, I can't even say for sure, but you'll probably get bipartisan cooperation of some kind to try to patch it up or do whatever. But I think it's going to take it to that level where, it's ready to start collapsing.
Just on a processing point, there were some Republicans who said, if they had just given it more time and established some forum for debate on the issues, they might have been able to tinker with it in the ordinary ways where you work on a bill and, there's the give and the take and that kind of a thing, but there was nothing. I mean, they're really trying to ram this through now.
And I'm sorry, I think that's why the American people get frustrated, because you have these bills that are put in front of Congress, and they don't take any time to really thoroughly debate them, and then expect legislators to take measures on them right away. And when you do that, you don't give constituents, you don't give businesses and organizations the real opportunity to weigh in into what is being put on the table.
Derek, I've heard that sometimes you have to pass the bill before you know what's in it. And this was the perfect example of Obamacare and the way the Democrats put it into law. I mean, that's the beginnings of why we have problems here, because it was rammed through. People didn't know what they were voting on, and they decided they were going to go with no Republican votes. They were going to do this all with just Democrat votes. And that sets the stage for what we're dealing with now.
I don't know that that's factually accurate, Bob. I think they certainly tried to get Republican votes. I think if you go to Obamacare supporters, they'll cite various sections that were put in by Republicans at Republicans' suggestions. They may not be the main features of the bill, certainly. There was much more regular order, as Senator McCain liked to talk about. There were committee hearings. There were chances for amendments. There were actually CBO estimates on what it would cost, how many people would gain or lose insurance.
Yes, but
none of this happened this time.
Yeah, well,
so.
And we were also supposed to make sure that we paid $2,500 less a year.
Oh, sure, you keep your doctor and all that.
If you like your doctor, you keep your doctor.
Question, no question.
This whole issue is so difficult that both parties have used it tried to use it for their own political advantage and twisted the truth. They both have twisted the truth, because if you tell the real story to the American people, they know they don't like it, which is basically, if you want to cover people that aren't covered with insurance, then those of you that are paying for health insurance are going to pay more, because you got to help cover those people. And that is the truth that nobody wants to talk about.
President Trump and congressional Republicans are moving on from the health care reform hit for now. This week, the president unveiled a sweeping plan to overhaul the federal tax code by slashing corporate taxes and making it easier to file yearly tax returns, among other things. In a speech in Indianapolis, Trump denounced the current system, calling it a relic that must be simplified.
Americans waste so much money, billions and billions of dollars, and many hours each year to comply with our ridiculously complex tax code. More than 90% of Americans use assistance to prepare their taxes. Under our framework, the vast majority of families will be able to file their taxes on a single sheet of paper.
Critics have called the plan vague, and preliminary estimates by the Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget suggest the changes could increase the federal deficit by more than $2 trillion over the next decade. Darrell Rowland, the reform is a long time coming, and for good reason. Making over the federal tax code is like the ultimate game of whack-a-mole, right?
hey, you thought, fixing healthcare? Well, yeah, let's try something easy. I mean, this is one of the last Republican chances to get a major victory before we start getting heavy into the midterm. So the political stakes are very high, which always, of course, always adds to the greatness of the discourse. There is a new analysis out by the Tax Policy Center, again, another nonpartisan group. It's just out this afternoon. The top 1% of American taxpayers would see their taxes drop by more than $200,000 on average. Nearly 30% of taxpayers with incomes between $50,000 and $150,000 a year would see a tax increase within a decade. So once again, we have, much as Obama, had falsehoods in selling Obamacare, I think some of the things, with all due respect, the president is saying are already being undercut by nonpartisan analysts. And as Bob says, it's stuff like this that just grinds people's gears. Okay, this may be a good plan, but let's talk honestly about it. And, its flaws as well as its good points, and let's hash it out. Right. We can't seem to do that in America anymore.
Laura?
It's just a framework at this point, and as soon as they get a bill out there, then I think there's going to be a lot more attacks made and much more concrete analysis. But even the initial analysis that's coming out, New York Times had a story, I think on Friday, saying that Donald Trump will save like $1 billion off of his own tax bills by this.
How do they know that? Nobody even knows what his
well,
tax
I know that's good question. They extrapolated based on the piece of his 2005 return that was released and looked at his other financial data. It's sort of a best guess, but still, when he says I'm not going to benefit, well, initial analysis shows that he probably would. At this point, I think it's a sales job for the Republicans and for the administration to put out there.
Can they do it, Bob Clegg, without the Democrats?
Sure, in theory, they can.
Well,
they have a majority in the House and they have a majority in the Senate, so they could. The problem is getting everyone on board, and especially in the Senate, you have 4 or 5 or 6 different senators that sometimes just aren't in line with everybody else. And you can start playing the game, which they did with healthcare, where you're starting to make sure you carve something out for each of these senators to try to get their vote, and that just makes things that much more complex.
Ergo the whack-a-mole.
Yeah,
right,
it's just, and you know what? 9 times out of 10, you don't get that senator anyways after you've gone through all those hoops, jumped through all those hoops.
Now, I would say every lawmaker loves a good tax cut, but also I think that the other thing balancing out with that is that there's concern over blowing a hole in the deficit, and I think that could shed off some support.
I always love when Democrats are talking about deficit reduction, by the way, and I didn't hear them say it for the last 8 years, but they're finally talking about it.
Zeal of a new convert.
Yes, I'll take it.
Let me just say this. Whether this turns out to be a good plan or not, it's already starting out as a disadvantage because the president doesn't tell the truth. If he starts telling the truth and people start to restore trust in what he says, then maybe we would have some meaningful dialogue. But there's always going to be skepticism around this president because he doesn't tell the truth.
Polls show that Americans want lower prescription drug prices. How to achieve that goal, however, is easier said than done. I feel like that's a theme throughout the conversation. Issue 2 on the November ballot would require Medicaid and other state agencies and programs to pay the same prescription rates as the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. So, issue 2 opponents, the big drug companies, say it won't save Ohioans money. Proponents say that it will, and a lot of money is being spent to persuade voters one way or the other. Early voting begins in a few weeks. Laura Bischoff, is that enough time for voters to sort out the stakes in this ballot issue, and who's supposed to save money? What do we know?
Well, there is this big competing ad war going on.
Right.
It's hard to not notice it. The #1 trending story on our website is get the facts about issue 2, just the basics. And I think that voters who are going to vote early or soon enough should go ahead and look at their local newspaper and look at the coverage and try to read through and decide which argument they believe is best for Ohio.
When they frame it, when you read the issue, it's not intended to save everybody money. It's intended to save the state money.
Right. It applies to public entities,
right,
like publicly owned universities, the state government, public pension systems, the Bureau of Workers' Compensation, I think. You know, there's some former Medicaid directors who are working against the issue, who say that it's just ridiculously complicated. You won't be able to implement it. They also raised concerns that embedded in the language is a specification that reasonable legal fees would have to be
boy.
paid.
Yeah.
By the taxpayers.
By the taxpayers.
And what is reasonable?
Well, there you go.
I'm trying to define that.
I mean, reasonable could
There's
be
the loophole.
$100 or it could be $100 million. Who knows? But
and just like with healthcare that we talked about before, where people that have it have to pay more to cover those that don't. The big fear with this whole issue is that by giving discounts to public entities, the people that aren't part of that public entity, which are individual citizens like us, and we have our own pharmaceutical we have to pay for, those prices for us will go up to, because the drug companies aren't going to lose money on this deal. If they have to pay less with the public entities, they're going to raise everybody else up.
yeah, that's correct.
This whole thing it's not been really done before. I mean, it was voted on in California, voted down. So there are so many assumptions on both sides, but frankly, mainly on the proponent side of how this would shake out. We just don't know. And you talk about fact checking. Well,
Fact-checking
if
facts.
if A, then B will happen. But if C, D will happen, and you don't know if it's going to be A or C or what's going to happen.
Here's something that is going to happen. Ohio college grads average roughly $30,000 in student loan debt each, and the burden is even greater for low-income students. Ohio State University says it wants to help. This week, the state's largest public university unveiled a plan to fully cover tuition for in-state students who also qualify for federally funded Pell Grants. The initiative will help about 3,500 students. It's expected to cost about $11 million a year. Derek Clay, one of the problems with Ohio State is that the cost to attend the university full-time is really a big part of that is room and board. And I'm wondering, how far does this go to help truly needy students, particularly people who want to come from out of town?
Sure. Well, it's a start. It's definitely a start. I think that the university has already committed about $60 million to helping low-income students, and I think this would add an additional $11 million to that. So it's not going to fix the overarching issue of low-income students that want to attend the university, get full room and board, make sure that tuition is paid for, books, what have you. But it is a good start to helping that along the way.
Is it a form of welfare?
Well,
Free tuition.
Hey, Ann, I'll take that question because I would be probably the one that you would think would say, yes, it is. I don't think it is. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I wish Ohio State and other universities could do more in this area. But not only just low income, middle class too. I mean, college tuition is so expensive, and you talk about the whole room and board issue. That's as much, if not more, than tuition and books. And middle class people that have 2 or 3 kids that are going to be going through college, they can't afford it, and that's why those poor kids are they're dumped on with debt.
Right.
I was just going to say, the cost drivers in college education is, administrative costs have gone up. There's a lot less state support to help defray costs. And you see Ohio State's doing things like shedding its parking operations or leasing out the utilities, which I think is how they're paying for this. I'm interested to see if they'll maybe lease out their most valuable asset, which is the football team, right?
Ooh.
Imagine that.
I thought it was the WSU studios.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, wait a minute.
Paid for by.
The electronic classroom of tomorrow is again under fire in June, or still under fire. In June, ECOT's former superintendent denied that the online charter school had used taxpayer funds to purchase TV ads attacking the State Department of Education for its scrutiny. Now records show the ECOT school board wrote a blank check to do just that in 2016. Darrell Rowland, Republican State Auditor David Yost continues to probe this issue. Democrats say that he should have known from the start if he was doing his job. What's at stake here?
Well, first and foremost, the education of thousands of young Ohio kids. That sometimes gets lost in all these arguments about dollars and cents and all that. But accountability has certainly been an issue with ECOT. Who's paying for all these ads? That's one question. Another question is they just got this additional bill, if you will, for $19 million.
Bringing the total to 80 million.
Yeah, rounding up.
Rounding
Yeah,
up.
because they were already at 60 million,
Right.
and that was for they have to repay state overpayments because their claimed enrollment was not even close to the real enrollment as verified by the state for 2 school years ago. This new bill is for last school year, the one that ended just this past June. That was 15, as we say, or about a little over 19 million. So it's all just adding up, and now we're on the new school year. You know, the meter is kind of continuing to run. While they're doing this, they're trying to become a dropout recovery school, which would just turn things upside down. In the cases before the Supreme Court, there's a lot of moving parts on this. And again, you got kids, you got parents who are trying to do the best thing for their
Email
kids
back
and getting
at
a
the
good
ranch.
education.
Well, I can tell you, going into a political year, we're not going to hear the last of this at all, especially with the the auditor running for Attorney General. There's going
In
to be
2018.
in 2018.
Yeah.
Yes, but you know, ECOT has got a lot of problems, as we all know. But I think going into this political year, you're going to hear a lot more about it, and there are probably going to be some things uncovered that we don't even know.
And yet the legislature still seems to be supportive of ECOT. You're not hearing a hue and cry out of that
Right,
neck
but
of the woods,
you're
is
also
it?
not seeing like any kind of a bailout bill for them. So I think that the legislature is kind of in a holding pattern, and wants to see what the Department of Education, determines and finds out.
Yeah, and I actually would say they're a little bit toxic right now at the State House, in part because, they know that the Laura and us and all the other press corps would jump on them if there is any sort of ECOT bailout bills. There were some proposed legislation that it turned out didn't really have much or anything to do with ECOT, but we were all jumping on, is this an ECOT bailout bill? And the suspicion is there because, there's been hundreds of thousands of campaign contributions mainly from the ECOT founder, Bill Lauger, to Republicans who control the legislature. Now, that's dried up a lot in recent years as well. Not totally, but not near what it was.
If ECOT goes out of business, who pays the tab on all of this? Has that been established? Because they have said, we can't, this is too much.
Well, that's the thing, and that's part of the reason I think Auditor Yost approached the Department of Education, wanted, even before this latest audit came out, say, we need to start docking them for more than just what they owe, but what they also owe in anticipation. They're also talking about the sponsors and some of the private entities that are connected with ECOT also having to repay some because ECOT took its money and passed it on. So those folks got overpaid as well for whatever services they purportedly provided. But it's really complicated. And you're right, if it closed tomorrow, there's going to be a big fat debt of unpaid taxpayers' money.
And a whole lot of kids trying to figure
the
out
only
where they're
thing
going to go to
to
school.
predict that's going to be sure is lawyers will get rich.
Legal fees, right. Just going back to the politics of it, though, is David Yost, when you talk about the 2018 election cycle, is this something that he's going to have to take a hit on, or are you talking about lawmakers?
I'm sure that he's going to have to answer questions about it because his office is directly involved with everything that's going on with ECOT now.
Well, and don't forget Secretary of State John Husted, when he was Speaker of the House, that's the origin of a lot of the current charter school laws. He and both Auditor Yost and many legislative leaders have spoken at ECOT graduations and on record getting thousands and thousands of dollars.
Any sense, Laura Bischoff, if people really care about this?
I think if you have your kid enrolled in ECOT, you care about it. I think that around Capitol Square, people care about it. But I don't know that Bob and Betty Buckeye are really dialed into all the details of it.
Yeah.
I think that it's important that the state make sure that the education is there for the kids, that it's actually happening, and that the taxpayers are, that the vendor, ECOT, is being held accountable, and the taxpayers are getting their money's worth.
Okay, it's time for Off the Record. Time for our final Off the Record parting shots. Bob Clegg.
And you know what? We're talking about 2018, but you know what? 2018 is now, because today the Ohio Republican Party endorsed 2 candidates for the Ohio Supreme Court, Judge Craig Baldwin and Judge Mary DeGennaro. And that is proof that 2018 is now here. We're in a campaign cycle.
No.
And we have TV ads.
And we have TV ads. We like those.
Okay. Yay, Derek Clay.
Well, the only
More good news.
not parting shot, but just offering prayers to all the people that have been affected by the hurricanes down in Puerto Rico and Houston and Louisiana. I know that there are a number of volunteers that have went down from Ohio, and so just keeping all of those folks in prayer.
And Laura Bischoff.
A word about the NFL protests. Protests are never popular when they start. And I would say that Colin Kaepernick wanted to draw attention to police brutality and racism, and he certainly has accomplished that, because now even though there's a lot of shouting over stand or kneel for the anthem, I think that it has sparked more of a national discourse on the topic.
Daryl Rowland.
Several times on this show, I've mentioned Blake Haxton, the Upper Arlington student from several years ago, lost both his legs to flesh-eating bacteria, was an all-star rower in high school. This very weekend, down in Florida, he's in the World Rowing Championships, the Paralympics for that, just rowing with his arms. And he's probably going to get a good place out of it. So the miracle continues for young Blake.
That's some good news. That's a great news to end on. That's Columbus on the Record. That's it for Columbus on the Record this week. Please check us out online. We're on Facebook and Twitter. You can connect to all of that on our website at wosu.org. I'm Ann Fisher. Have a good week.